Hi, I'm Jeff Schoep with Beyond Barriers, and I have my original co-host, Jennifer Kreis, back on the program. Hi, Jennifer. Good to see you again.
Hi, Jeff. Nice to see you. How you doing?
Good, good, good. It's wonderful to have you back. It's been a little
Well,
while,
thank
huh?
you. Thank you. Yes. Yes. I'm
All
settled
right.
now, so I'm ready to go.
Awesome, awesome. The world needs to hear what you have to say, and you're such an incredible activist. It's really great to have you back.
Thank you.
The listening audience doesn't know this, but I know that some of the old videos from when you were a child, a teenager, have resurfaced and have been trending on different platforms. Could you tell us and the listening audience a little bit about that and what's going on?
Well, back in early 90s, I was on several talk shows. One in particular has resurfaced just this past May, and there's about 3 million views on it and thousands of comments. And then other people, they saw it, they saw the traffic it was bringing. So other people have re-uploaded it. And people are kind of, yeah, it's going crazy, a little viral. And then just 2 weeks ago, they pulled a clip of ours, like a longer clip from our very first podcast that we did together a couple of years ago. And they've uploaded that as well.
So they're excuse me, they're not uploading this stuff because they're fans of the show though, or anything like that, are they?
No,
No.
not at all. I think they're fans of just dragging people, really. They don't, some of them didn't realize it was 30 years ago. And literally it's been 30 years. And others don't care. So there's been a lot. They had found in May, they had found my Jenn Kreis Facebook page. And I didn't even know this was going on until about 3 or 4 days later. And so I logged into Facebook because I hadn't been on in months really. And it was bombarded with tons of hate from the TikTok audience. And they left many, many, many nasty comments, death threats in my private messages. Yeah, lots of comments like on TikTok under the video as well. So I immediately, I shut everything down for a couple of days because that's not my life anymore. That was my life when I was a kid. I have a good life now, normal life. And I just don't want that negativity because that's not why I started speaking out in 2018, I think it was. That's not why I did that, to cause drama and negativity. So I just had to kind of process everything for a couple of days. I went through and completely shut my Facebook down, locked it down. And the only thing they can do is find me on Facebook and certain, like my profile pictures or whatever, they can, what they've been doing, because they can't comment anywhere now. They can't send me a friend request. So they can only emoji react to a couple of things. So they have to get something in. So that's what they're doing.
With that being said, just for the listening audience and to remind everybody, like exactly what we're talking about, because I know you and I know what we're talking about, but a lot of the people out there might not understand exactly like where you've come from and all that, unless they've been following our show for a couple of years now, then they'd be familiar with it. So if you could just give and I should have prefaced that at the beginning of the show, but if you could just give a little bit of rundown about your past history and what exactly that we're talking about and why these people are doing that and what they're directing that at in your childhood and growing up a little bit, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I'll try to keep it brief. When I was, my father, August Kreis, he was a very well-known white supremacist. He was in the Klan when I was a kid. And then when I was a teenager, he started getting into things heavily when I was about 12 or 13. There was it all started when I was I believe I was around 14. The talk show circle industry had seen me. My father had put me on TV for this, like a documentary type of thing. And they had, told me what to say. So I said it, and it was shocking. So now at this point, all of the talk shows wanted me to come on their show and say the same horrible things, to basically exploit me and, get views and make money. So my father, he jumped at that because, he made money. And also, it was more publicity and everything for himself. So there are many talk shows, but the most infamous one was Jerry Springer. He had put us on Jerry Springer, and it's followed me my whole life. I have nothing to do with that stuff. When I was 18, as soon as I turned 18, actually right before I turned 18, after I graduated high school, I was out of there. So these things they've resurfaced here and there through the years. It was on YouTube, but it was popular, but it never really left there. Now it's, being unburied, and here we are.
So, and I remember that from way back in those days. That was almost a lifetime ago, wasn't it?
30 years.
That was a really long time ago.
It feels like a different life. It does. It really, sometimes it doesn't even feel like my life because it was so long ago, and that's just not who I am.
And I think that's important, and I know for myself as well, when I look back at the person I used to be, it's hard as hell, so it's I'm sure it's the same way for you. And what really bothers me about this is here you were exploited as a child. Your father was involved in this stuff, and he was exploiting you. And as you said, you were saying what you were told to say. And that was it. And you had after you left home, you pretty much got out of that life, if I'm understanding it correctly, for the listening audience. And yet here 30 some years later, you're still being trolled and dragged for that, what took place on that talk show circuit so many years ago. And how does that make you feel? Like, how do you process that?
At first, it really bothered me. Like I said, I shut my Facebook down and everything, deactivated it. I think, to be completely honest, I think the thing because I know who I am. I know who I am. The people I love and care about and love and care about me, they know who I am. And that's what matters the most. I think what bothers me the most about it is I don't want this to ever somehow come back on my kids when they're older. That's what's most important to me. That's why, I want the world who is judging me still 30 years later. They don't know me. They don't know me at all. But I want them to know that, that is not who I am. I mean, I was a kid. Look at how many kids, and I was in a very traumatic, abusive childhood. Look how many kids, though, do bad, horrible things as kids. You grow up, So, yeah, that's what bothers me the most. I just don't want it to ever come back on my kids. Like, your mother this, your mother that. That would be extremely, extremely unfair. And that's what's happened to me.
Yeah, you look back and I've seen the videos and I know the story and all that, and I look back on that, and you can see that it's very, very old footage by the quality of it, by the hairstyles, your hairstyle too, by the way, and all that.
I love my locks.
Right.
We'll talk about that later.
Right. I'm going to ask you about that too, but people are looking back and rehashing this footage, and yeah, it's shocking, and yeah, it's upsetting and all that, but it's like, what bothers me the most about it is you were a child when that took place, and some of these people that are giving you threats, threatening your family, making these crazy statements. One, they don't know you. They don't know your story. They don't know anything about that. And they don't know about the abuse and the things that you've been through. You are one of the strongest people I know, Jen, and it breaks my heart when I hear this and see this kind of stuff going on to somebody that's such a wonderful person and doing such good things. And it takes a lot of courage to speak out and do like you're doing. And
Thank you.
I think you need to be uplifted. You should be thought highly of for changing your life around. Even at such a young age, and through the abuse and the trauma and everything that you've been through, it takes I can't even imagine. It just takes a super strong person. And when I see and hear this, it's really troubling, because none of these people that are attacking you, they're not perfect. They don't live these moralistic, the best life ever. I'm sure all of us has mistakes in our life, some of us much worse than others. But your story and some of the stuff you've been through was stuff that happened to you when you were a child, and stuff that you had no choice in it.
No,
So
I didn't have a choice at all. No.
I think that's more than anything. That's why I thought this would be a good thing for for your return episode, to cover this rather than have a guest on. And we'll be doing that and everything too. But for this particular episode, I thought it was really important to tackle these issues and some of the things that are being said. Do you want to share about some of the nasty things that are being said and kind of debunk any of that, just in general? We don't have to have the word for word, but some of the more hateful things.
Well, some people, they don't care that I was a child. They are adamant that I had the option to say, no, I'm not going to say those things. I'm not going to go on TV. Well, what they don't know is that when I was being abused, and when I tried when I did say no, the one time that I said no, I was literally punched in the face. He punched me in the face. Somebody broke my nose. As a kid, like, how do you, I just did not say no to him. That was the first time I ever said no, and that's what happened. The other things he would say to me, he was like, "We need the money. How can you say no?" Because he was paid from, as far as I know, it was about $1,000 each time, which is not a lot of money, especially to practically ruin someone's life. For this is going to follow me the rest of my life. I don't know if people realize, what it's put me through, even as an adult. Like my children, every time I register them into a school, you have to give their birth certificate. Well, what's on the birth certificate? My maiden name. And of course, my first name, obviously. So I kept my head under a rock for many, many, many years. And I don't know why suddenly in 2018, I was like, well, it was because I know why, but I'm not sure why I decided to come out like I did at that time, but it was on Facebook. And I did a Facebook Live because a friend of mine up in Potter County, Pennsylvania, had told me that there were Nazis up there, and it brought the news media in, and the news media started to make, the whole country or whatever believe that the whole community was racist and supporting this. And that was the farthest thing from the truth. I lived there when they were against my father and everything. So, I know that they're not like that. And I just couldn't I couldn't sit back and allow that to be said about people, that I knew it wasn't true, because that's one of the worst things you could say about someone. So that's when I broke my silence. And it was hard. I had to process. I got so much support, but I had to even process that. I don't think I even slept for a couple of days because my adrenaline was so high. But back to the comments from, you
Well,
know,
just
all
one
of the,
one second, just if
Mhm.
not to interject or interrupt, but I wanted to say, just for the listening audience, and I know I know the story, but I'm saying for the listening audience, um, what Jen's talking about, her father is in prison for abusing her, and this is not something that's. Go
well,
ahead.
he's in, sorry, I have to just correct.
Yeah,
He's in prison for abusing my younger half sisters, three of my younger half sisters. What he did to me and my full-blooded sister, he got away with. I reported it and they did nothing. So at least he's in prison now. But because, and I get really emotional when I talk about this, you know that, but
I
because
that's why I was going to try to do it for you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
But I think, just for the people that are tuning in now, I
Yeah.
thought we should cover that.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
agree. He, when I reported him, and in 1996 up in Potter County, and the district attorney at the time refused to, not just refused to prosecute, but they wouldn't even investigate. Because of that, he went on to have more children and abused all three of the females, children that he had, my sisters. So there was a lot of damage done to a lot of people, me, my sisters, even my brothers, because he wasn't just abusive sexually, he was abusive in every other way as well.
And I want the listening audience to pay attention and to hear this. Those of you that are taking swipes at this woman, at her family, at her siblings, you think about that. You think about what she's been through and what kind of person you are to pass judgment on somebody like that for the abuse that they went through as a child, that they went through early in life, and ask yourself, look in the mirror and ask yourself if you're okay with that, if that's something that you're okay with. And that's why I thought it was so important that we address this, Jen. And thank you. I know it's really difficult to share that, and I didn't even want to have you bring it up again, but thank you for sharing it, because I think it is so important that these people out there that are saying these things understand that and reflect on that. You don't know what somebody's journey in life has been. And here is a case where a young lady was being abused, went to the police, was not being heard, and the abuse continued and continued and continued through the next through the younger siblings until it was finally caught.
19 years more.
Unbelievable. Frickin' believable. Ooh.
And let me just add that the majority of the white power movement supported him, didn't believe it, called me names. I was a Jew lover. Somehow I was a race mixer, all of these things.
I remember at the time when it came out that the accusations had come out and nobody believed it. The police didn't believe it. The people in the movement didn't believe it. Your father hid behind the so-called cloak of Christian identity and was a pastor. That's something that we forgot to mention. He was a Christian identity pastor. So people didn't believe it. They didn't believe that a man of God, and I'm using air quotes here for those that are listening and not watching it, a man of God would do such a thing. And that's exactly what happened. And as Jen just said, 19 years that continued.
Yeah. Destroyed lives. They didn't do their job at all. So, I mean, I've told this story before, but when I was by myself, and when I went to the state police to report it alone, he was reading this affidavit I had wrote with every single gruesome detail that I could remember, which was a lot. It wasn't something that I just couldn't remember, because it happened from my memories go back to 2 years old, clear memories to 2 years old. And I'm assuming it probably happened before too. I don't know, but why, why wouldn't it have really? And it finally stopped when I was approximately 13, 14. So I wrote down everything I could possibly remember. And the chief of the police station there sat there reading this, laughing, hysterical. And I asked him, I was crying my eyes out, and I asked him I said, why are you laughing? And he said, look how upset you are. This is no big deal. Do you know how many people this happens to? That was his reply.
Unbelievable.
I, at that moment, regretted walking into that police station. Yep. And then they did nothing. They were even fighting my mom on giving her, custody, like giving her because we got a emergency PFA against them and all of that. But CPS did nothing. They never questioned my little sister, who was about 2.5, almost 3. Never did anything.
I just think that makes the fact that you're willing to speak out now, and you said you started speaking out in 2018 or around that time, and you're still out here trying to make a difference in 2022, and you're still moving forward, and you're providing a wonderful life for your own children, and make sure that they didn't enter into a life of hate and
no.
So why, in your opinion, why for you is it important to speak out about some of the things that took place?
Because that was as far as the racial thing, it was such a dark childhood. It was such a dark life to be surrounded by that. People who just hate.
So I wanted to ask you, why did you feel compelled to speak out on what you had all been through growing up? Because for a lot of people, and the reason why I asked this, for a lot of people, and same with being a former extremist, it's a lot easier to just go away and be live your life and not be out there in the public and talk and rehash those things, because it's a lot of pain and trauma, and I can see it in your face whenever we talk about it, and hear it in your voice. So what is it that compels you to do this and to speak out?
Well, at the time I had been going through some counseling, just about my childhood and stuff, and I was asked to be a guest speaker at a survivor's vigil. I was like, wow, I can actually talk about it. You know what I mean? Instead of holding it all in. So I wrote like a speech, and it was the first time I had ever publicly, now this was before 2018. It was the first time I had ever publicly spoke about everything. It was scary. But the support that I received that night at that vigil was amazing. It was amazing. So I got a taste of that, being able to talk about, things that bothered me, things from my childhood. And it felt amazing, because you have to remember, I didn't talk about this. I didn't tell anybody until I was 18. Basically, I grew up with his hand over my mouth, physically, and in every other way. So I didn't have to do that anymore. And I had been going through therapy, and I just wanted to help other people. Not even, Jeff, like the whole racism thing, but also being a survivor of childhood abuse. It feels very, you feel alone. And a lot of people are scared. There are millions of people still, men and women, who they're adults now, but they still keep it all inside. They haven't told anybody, and they feel alone. And it's almost like a paralyzing feeling. You can't say the words out loud. And I'll tell you something, that will age you. That will, the stress from that is unbelievable. It's not healthy. So I want people to know, and not to be ashamed of it. It's not our fault.
That right there, that's an incredibly important point, Jen, and to give people the strength to be able to say something, because no one should go through anything like that, especially the abuse. I mean, what you went through, several kinds of abuse there, but the physical abuse and through family like that, I mean, that is unacceptable. Is too soft of a word. It's just absolutely repulsive and unfathomable, really. And it happens to so many people in this country and around the world. And by hearing your story and taking that strength and speaking out, you don't know who you're reaching, how many countless people you're reaching. You may never even have an idea how many, but this is so incredibly important. And as you all heard, it was very, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like it was very therapeutic for you also to be able, for you personally on your own journey.
Yeah, because I was finally able, it felt freeing. Like the bricks were lifted off of me. I was finally able to say, look, this is who I am. This is what I went through. This is why, I said the things I said. And don't get me wrong, I can't even watch it without crying myself, on those shows, the things that I've said. It's extremely traumatic for me just to hear my voice saying those things. Yeah. It's unfortunately, I can't change, the past. I have no control over that. But I completely understand 1,000% why it, to hear that would hurt people, enrage people. I get that. And, as I acknowledge that, and, I'm very sorry for hurting people, at the same time, grant me the grace that you can wrap your head around and understand that I had no choice. It was about survival for me. I lived surviving. I wasn't living, I was surviving.
And I think, I'd like to think this anyways. I think that a lot of the people that are attacking you, and now we're talking about those videos, the hateful videos from the way back, Jerry Springer and all that. But I think I would like to say that I hope that they're saying some of these things not knowing your background and story, but still, and you said it so eloquently, about give you the grace to forgive you for that, like basically, you were forced into doing it. And it was, there's a lot of us that weren't forced, that, that owe people even greater apologies, for the stuff that we spewed. But in your case, you were a victim, or a survivor, probably a better term. But it's hard to see that stuff resurface and you be dragged through the mud for something that happened when you were a child, literally. I would like to think that people just don't know and they're ignorant themselves, and that's why they're saying those things.
Some of them know and they still say it. I mean, that's their prerogative. Yeah, that's something that, I mean, at that point they're hating me then, they're carrying hate within them then, and that's their cross to bear. But I think that there's a lot of people that just like to be negative, even when I noticed that there was a lot of people who saw that video it was posted on social media, the Jerry Springer video, and I hope she changed, which is great. Then the video of you and I was posted, and they saw who I am now. and it still wasn't good enough. They come up with something else then. So it's like, that's, like I said, that's their cross to bear then. Saying that, okay, she says she's changed, but I don't trust her. Well, that's fine. They don't have to trust me because they don't know me. I get that. But in saying that, I wouldn't hurt a fly. I wouldn't hurt a fly unless they hurt me or my family. I treat people the way they treat me. I have friends of all races, and they have zero problem with me because they know that that's not who I am, you know, and, you know, a lot of them know my background, because I always feel when I become friends with someone like from work or whatever, I feel like they deserve to know, you know, because like, I don't want them to come across anything on TV from my past or from now or in the future and be, you know, and then they're like, whoa, you know, they deserve better than that. So.
No, that's an interesting way to look at it, because I do that in my life as well. When you meet somebody new and you're talking to them, and it's like, I don't say it. It's not the first thing that pops out of my mouth about the past and all that.
Right. No.
After a while, when you get to know somebody, then you go, oh God, I have to have this talk. And it feels like, I know when I was in the movement, having those talks was a dreaded thing to do. It's still dreadful now, you know, and there's people, I've met people where they go, no, this is just too much. I can't deal with it. Even with the work and things that we're doing now, they just can't process it. It's just too much. And they run the other direction, or they don't want to talk to you anymore. So it's tough, you know, and it's you know, we're trying to do the right thing, and we're trying to change hearts and minds and show that people can change. So, you know, and you're right, we can't make them change. But.
Right. What I've been doing, honestly, is I just send them the link to the podcast I did with you, the first one. I'm like, maybe you should watch this.
Right.
But I haven't had anything but positivity, because they have gotten to know me. You know, they know that I would never hurt anybody in any way, you know, like, unless they come at me or my family. That's a different story then. That's defense at that point, you know? So, yeah.
Well, so some of the, and I agree with you. And then there's just so much that can be said and done. And I was going to ask you, so about some of these, and I don't want to just keep browbeating these things, but some of the comments, there was one that you had shared with me, and I wanted to address, where I feel like it was reverse racism directed at you, because you were being accused of cultural appropriation for your dreadlocks and your hair, and called the cheetah girl. And I see you got some cheetah stuff going on up here. Sorry.
I love my animal print. What can I say? I'm stuck in the 90s. It's coming back though. It's coming back in the style. I've just always had it. So.
Right. But it's not, you don't feel it's cultural appropriation or anything.
My hair?
Personally,
no.
I feel like it's racist to say that, you know, for someone to say that.
I do too, because they're basing it, well, I'll just, so there were comments that, oh, well, that's great. You know, when they saw our video, that's great, she's changed, but she really hasn't. She's wearing locks. And it's like, okay, my hair I just can't win. You know, I feel like I just can't win. My hair is racist. I mean, nobody owns, first of all, my culture also wore dreadlocks and matted hair.
Yep.
It's not a racial thing, you know?
Right.
It's I'd like to just clear the record. My locks are going nowhere. they're staying on my head. I love them. You know, I just let my hair mat up, and that's what it does. I got curly, kinky hair, you know? So, but it's like, that'd be like me saying to an African-American that straightens their hair or dyes it or wears blonde wigs, that'd be like me saying to them that, you know, you're culturally appropriating. That's ridiculous.
Right.
That's ridiculous. I would never say that to somebody. It doesn't even cross my mind, you know, until it was said to me. And I'm like, wait a second, you know, like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But I'm not here to live my life for other people. So.
Right. Yeah, and that's just it. You know, sometimes the ones that screech the loudest about some of this stuff and they complain the loudest are the ones that are the most guilty of it. It's like the ones that I don't know, I lost my example, but you know, but making comments like that, and it's like, really, you don't have anything else to jab at somebody? There's not something that you're doing or saying, but they're going to start picking at the way you look,
Well, that
the way
exactly.
you dress.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they were like, they were saying I look like I was 30 years old when I was on Jerry Springer, because in my hair, they were saying things about what I was wearing and my hairstyle, and I'm just like, how do they not know that this was 30 years ago? They weren't even born yet, really.
Right.
You know, a lot of them.
Right.
I'm just like, I don't know, but my hair's not going anywhere. I've had threats that they're going to come and find me and cut them off. That's okay. Try it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work out too well for them, but
no.
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask you about some of those things because it just seems so ridiculous, and you know, we probably shouldn't spend too much time on it, but I think that the efforts that you're doing now and speaking out and talking about what all took place is going to give a lot of people strength, and that's the mission right there, you know.
Well, that's one of the main reasons. Like I've said this before, I feel like if I don't do this, then everything that I went through was literally for nothing. Nothing good come out of it then, you know, and it was all for nothing, just for my pain instead of, you know, strength, like turning my story into strength for other people. However, whichever way that, you know, can happen, that can be for them individually.
No, that's powerful, and I think that's why it's so incredibly important, and I think that's why you know, your story and your voice needs to be heard more, and that it should be uplifted, because there's a lot of people in this world that are suffering, and none of us know what someone's going through, and if they tune in and they hear about this, and it may change their life, or it may give them the strength to stand up. I mean, I don't want to keep browbeating the same issue, but look at what you had been through and what you had been through in your family, and not being believed, not being heard, and still persevering and going out there and uplifting yourself over that, and still making a difference. That's tough. A lot of people, Jen, would have said, you know what, screw this, screw the police department and everybody else in the world, because they didn't believe me, and I'm done, and I'll never say another word, and F everybody else, because I can't help them. And you kept pushing.
Just hearing that, just like, screw everybody else because I can't help them, that's just wicked. You know, like, that just, I have God's light in me, and that's what I need to let shine.
100%. So I want to say, you know, with all this stuff going viral, and as you were saying earlier in the podcast, some of these videos, especially on TikTok, you're getting like 200,000 hits, 3 million hits or something like that on another one. Is that accurate? They're like that's the kind of trending they're doing. Yeah,
3 million on the first one, and ours had like 117,000. Yeah,
that's a lot. So you know what, I think this has inspired us to do something about it, besides just talking on the podcast. I think we should get our TikTok account more active over there, and put out some TikToks on, you know, to kind of since you know, these clips are so popular and people want to hear what you have to say, why not?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I say let's go for it.
All right, so we are going to do some new TikToks, and it's really great to have you back on the podcast, Jen.
Thank you.
It's been far too long. We're going to do great things, so
I'm excited. Let me say another thing. If anyone is interested in having us speak together, contact Jeff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That would be a phenomenal thing. So if you're interested, anybody out there is listening, interested, you know, we're going to start doing talks together and get out there in the public even more than we already are. So expect big things from Jenn Kreis and Jeff Schoep and Beyond Barriers.